Today we are continuing our cost control myth series, and we are back with another myth that we're going to debunk, and that is the set it and forget it myth, which is, what do your media buyers even do all day? Aren't you just adjusting cost controls up and down, uploading creative? How hard is that? ASC, etc., etc. Why this myth exists, right, is the cost controls reduce the need for daily adjustment and daily budget adjustments. And so it appears automated from the outside looking in. So success often looks like we're just leaning into the machine learning system, which we are, but what are they even doing? Which also kind of addresses the whole role of a media buyer today, and what that looks like. So we're going to be jumping in. Taylor and I, this is a fun conversation about Kynship and our media buyers and our philosophy, but also just around cost controls in general. Is it really that easy? Is there a science to this? What are we understanding? How are we affecting the ad account from outside the ad account and what that actually means? So without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of The Bottom Line. We're continuing our cost control myth series, and today we're diving into a spicy one, I would say. A myth out there.
Spicy ice.
You ready to tackle this one, Taylor?
Come on. I don't think they're ready. They're not ready, though.
No one's ready but us, and that's good. All right, so here's what's coming up in sales conversations. I think people think cost control media buying is basically set it and forget it. Like, hey, Taylor, Cody, all you do is kind of upload some creative, maybe adjust a cost cap here and there, and let Facebook do its thing. I've even someone just come to me cold. So like, what do your media buyers even do all day? Kind of basically suggesting what I just said. So before we dive in, what's your gut reaction when you hear that, Taylor? You're welcome. Like the last one? No.
Kind of. Yeah. No, it's just, where does the time go? Right. That's the question that you're trying to get at there. And I would say, what I always say to our media buyers here, right, is the less adjustments you make in the ad account, the better you are at your job at the end of the day. And so that's just not where the time should be spent. And if you have a media buyer internally, or you have a media buyer at an agency, and you're going to the edit history and you see a bunch of adjustments to budgets and things like that, like, you got a bad media buyer in your hands. That's an immediate red flag. And so whenever I go into our accounts and look at that, it's an opportunity for me to give feedback to our media buyers. If there are too many adjustments happening, there shouldn't be. If there's adjustments, it means they're missing the mark. And that's an immediate red flag. And so that would be my immediate response to that, is that's a red flag right off the jump. If you have that happening currently in your ad account, and that needs to change. That's not where they should be spending their time.
I feel like this myth actually comes from a good place. Like, right? Like, because we talk so much about what you just said, which is like the over managing of campaigns, about letting the machine learning system of Facebook do its thing, but people swing it too far the other way. They think, oh, so you just don't do anything. Like, and I think we need to, that's what this episode is all about, is basically breaking down why that's not the case, which is what you're just talking about, which is we're solving for things outside of the ad account to affect the ad account, essentially, right? Like, we have a whole holistic view, which we're going to break down, of the entire business, which is just another thing to bring up, which is, a media buyer internally at a brand. How bored are they, right? Like, we've heard of people that have leave agencies, they go internally at a brand, they end up basically freelancing on the side because they're bored, like, because they're used to managing 6 to 8 accounts, and now they're managing one, and they're realizing, like, well, what else am I doing? So they start freelancing. I'll digress from that. But maybe let's talk about first what people don't see, which is just maybe the massive iceberg under the surface around content management, especially for like the content pipelines that we source. Maybe can we talk about what's actually happening, like, for our media buyers in terms of like the hours spent, like, even if we just talk about categories like ad account builds, creative analysis, like basically walk people through what's actually happening. Not like an hour by hour basis, but maybe the buckets of time allocation.
This is what it goes into, right? It's not a majority of their time is spent towards strategy, right? Of course, we have comms, We pride ourselves in the comms that we have with our clients. But outside of that, and we try to actually create boundaries around it so that we have a lot of time to go towards strategic thought work to ultimately deliver quality on the deliverables here. And so a majority of the time is spent towards one, forecasting, two, like what Cody already said, creative analysis, and then three, landing pages and offers. Right. And I think just starting from, top to bottom there, forecasting, a majority of media buyers, again, at agencies or internal buyers, get their target from a CFO. Right. And they don't have a lot of ownership around that target in the ad account that they're working with, in which we used to do that a long time ago, but it's a very flawed system, right? We want to be partnering with you guys in setting that target and what that target means for your business from a top line and overall profitability standpoint. If we have that, overall profitability target from your brand, and then we can forecast it all out, we can reverse engineer what your, blended new customer ROAS target is. And then we do this on a day-to-day basis, what that blended new customer ROAS target means for transitioning and translating that into an in-ad account target. Once we have that, that's step one. That's first and foremost. And we're running linear regression analyses to identify what that target should be and a lot of other data to determine that as well. I mean, that could be a whole separate episode, I would say, in determining like how to set that new customer ROAS target and then translating that into an in-ad account target and then fact checking that consistently is step one for sure. And then it goes into setting cost caps against that. And then it's solving for spend, which is the next piece of this. And you can go into this as well on your end. Like all of the media buyer's job is how do we solve for spend against this target now? And then constantly fact checking, is this the right target based on all the other levers within your forecast, right? Repeat rates, your cost centers, all of the above.
Yeah, it's just the position today needs to be so much more diverse than maybe it used to be, or maybe it just back in the day it just wasn't as complex. But I just think about years ago, even at Kalo, or I don't know, just the Facebook heyday, the role has expanded so much to where if the media buyer internally at a brand, if you're a operator listening to this and you have an internal media buying team or just one, if he isn't connected to your creative team, to your landing page or like agency, like whatever it's team, I use that loosely, whether it's internal or external, your landing pages, your offers, maybe you're even your copywriter, like, and then also what you just brought up of like, you're getting a target from a CFO if you aren't integrated with the finance side of the business. Yeah. So, and I think this is a good transition, right? Which is like something so critical in how we transition as an agency is to this whole piece around AMER versus in-platform CPA. I mean, how often that does come up to switch people's mindset from making decisions on in-platform CPA, right? Like a lot of media buyers get trapped in this. So they're just looking at in-platform metrics, making decisions in a vacuum, right? But when we're looking at decision making, like obviously we're looking at 5 different data points minimum before we're making any more changes. So I guess like walk the audience through that process. And this is going to get more granular into more of like the forecasting side of the business. But it goes into, I mean, this is how our media buyers are making decisions. They're not making decisions off of, in the scenario where you're seeing weak in-platform CPAs, but strong AMER, for example.
I think the best way to chat through this, at least on my end, would be go through an example of what this would look like. So we had a health and wellness brand subscription. I think the repeat order rate within the first 6 months was like 150, 200%. So a really good LTV, really strong. And they came in and communicated, hey, we want to be at a 4 AMER for new customer ROAS. That's a really high new customer ROAS. And they, again, before we did our forecasting process, anything like that, they just kind of voiced that to us. So our media buyers are going in and making suggestions. They're doing the analysis, they're building the forecast, and they're showing a 4 new customer blended ROAS to the client because that's what they requested and what that means for their forecast. When we built the forecast at our end, we suggested, hey, we think you should actually be going after a 1.5 new customer ROAS with the LTV that you have and all the other cost centers the way that you have it set up. And so we're doing that thought work. And why is that? Because on our end, you're paying us to understand auction dynamics within Meta, right, as well. They exist within a category, right? Health and wellness, really strong LTV. They exist within this category where all of their competitors, they're probably going after a 1.5 new customer ROAS. And there's not going to be any customers left over in that auction on Meta if we're going after a 4.
More aggressive.
Yeah, there's not going to be anybody left over to buy your products at that point. It doesn't matter how good your creative is. It doesn't matter how good your offer is. There's not going to be any customers left over at that point. You're completely shooting yourself in the foot. So it's questions like that, right? Like we can go try our best and our darndest and achieving a 4 for you for whatever reason that's the case. Probably because it's someone that's your friend in a different brand category altogether that doesn't have a similar LTV and all their levers that make up their business are different than yours, said, I'm hitting this, so you should go hit it. But that's not how this all this works. So on our end, we're understanding the auction dynamics at play and what AMER with a very educated, a very analytical approach makes sense for your business to level up to a top line and overall profitability that would lead to success for you. And at that point, we have our target. And then again, we have that target. We translate that to an ad account target on Meta, and then set the cost caps accordingly. And now we go solve for spend by, hey, creative, and that's where we have a ton of pipelines built out. Every single additional creative asset that you can launch is another opportunity to spend against a cost cap that levels up to our overall profitability. And then you think about offers and landing pages as well to unlock that spend as well.
Yeah. So I'm an operator listening to this. Great. You guys are dialed in on the numbers. We're forecasting our business together. I feel like I'm pretty savvy with the numbers. We got an AMER. The account is not hitting this AMER. What is our decision-making process when these things happen, right? Because it's not you might not nail it the first time. There could be other factors that affect this. And this is where I think my point earlier, which is just like what's happening outside of the ad account is there's a lot of things that are not within our control, including the brand itself, the product, retention, all these different things that affect that account. So that's kind of I guess you could say context for the conversation, right? Like Meta is incredibly important and it dictates a lot, but it's not everything into even what you just said, the auction dynamics. So in that scenario, we're not hitting our AMER that's translating to an ad account CPA. It's not leveling up. What's our decision-making process? Go through even our process of like when not to make a change, how often we're making changes, like some of those frameworks.
Well, that's the dream question. I think that question gets at the whole point of this podcast. Like that's what you're paying us to do right there. Like that's it. We're not hitting the targets that we need to, that level up to, again, what everyone cares about, our top line revenue goals and our overall profitability goals that go in line with that. You're hiring our media buyers to solve that. How do we continue to grow your top line at your overall profitability target through Meta? And so if that's currently not happening, something's wrong. It's a signal, right? Obviously. And what is that signal indicative of? The first thing that I would say we would do here is creative, right? And that's what you get when you onboard with Kynship. What we're doing is we're going to max out your creative opportunities and the amount that you're getting in the ad account each and every single month. Creative is the number one way to unlock spend at your profitability target for sure. If that doesn't work, hey, let's look at your offer. Let's look at CRO here on your website and the offers that we're putting in front of our people, in front of our target audience. Let's test different offers here. Is that still not working? At that point, I would really look at, do we have the right, is this AMER target? Is this possible? Like, what are your competitors hitting? Or do they have a lower AMER target where we just don't have any customers available to us? Like, these are all the questions that we're running through and looking to answer one step at a time in order to solve this problem. And then, okay, if you don't have the retention to support that blended new customer ROAS, okay, we need to work on our retention here to get these numbers up so we can afford a lower AMER or lower new customer ROAS. And so these are all the different ways that we're coming alongside you and constantly thinking about to better support you guys within Meta. It all comes back to Meta, and that's what you're paying us to do. But it's not set it and forget it. That's the furthest thing from the truth. We're just doing a lot else from a strategic standpoint to make Meta work.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway of the episode, and it's just thinking beyond the platform.
You need to. I don't know how anybody operates within Meta without doing this.
Yeah.
It's just blind.
I can't really speak to that because obviously this is like we're working in a silo of our media buyers and Kynship. But I do know that brands that have internal media buyers, this would be a big episode to listen to if they're not included on all the other things that are happening outside of the platform to make decisions. And it's also, if you have an internal media buyer, this is where you're kind of bringing up the first initial point, which is what you said at the beginning, which is you're making too many changes. Because if this is your entire job and you're trying to really improve the performance and you're bored potentially because I'm looking at adjusting cost controls, there's only so many things I'm adjusting budgets, I guess, potentially. I'm creative testing. I'm just thinking of all the other things that people do. I'm just touching that account all the time.
And you're spot on, right? And if you don't give them he or she visibility into all these other things that we're talking about and give them ownership over it, they're going to be inclined to do that, right? Because why? Because it makes them feel valuable. It makes them feel like they're doing something. But it's the worst thing that they're sabotaging that ad account by constantly resetting optimization and not leaning into the machine learning system of Facebook by trying to outsmart it and doing too much. And that's always going to lead to detrimental impact on the business within Meta.
There's a problem today with too much fake UGC saturation. Consumers are looking for authentic reviews and content, and this is a way that you can stand out in your crowded market with authentic influencer content. So Cody here with an ad read for Get Cyril. So there's an explosion of D2C brands across categories. You got to be able to stick out. We here at Kynship actually use Cyril for influencer discovery, but Cyril is not just a discovery tool, but a way that you can search for brand aligned influencers, but reach out directly. You can manage them all in place. You can track performance all within one platform. So brands like Avi, Legends, Tab Chocolate are using them to get hundreds of creators talking about them on socials, and you can too. And in addition to that, all of our clients here at Kynship that are doing seeding are using that platform as well. So you can start your free 7-day trial with Cyril to get authentic UGC. Go check them out. Let's go into the science of cost controls, though. I mean, I think that'd be interesting, just tangential topic of this, which is just like some of the rules we have around how often and how quickly. And this kind of goes into like the major point of just like how infrequently you're making changes is probably the best way to do it. Like knowing when to not touch it. Some of those rules, like, hey, let's break it down for like. Number one, when we get new creative in, where's that going? Like, what campaigns are we uploading content to, and some of the rules that we have. And then number two, like making changes on a cost cap, because we're not adjusting budgets hardly ever, right? Because of those inflated budgets, what you talked about last time. And this is where like that myth comes into play is like, aren't you just adjusting cost caps up and down? And uploading creative. But let's go into some of those sciences of when you upload creative, like knowing where to put it. There is a science to that.
For sure. Yeah, now we're getting into a little bit of the structure of things. But yeah, going back to the beginning, the first thing I say to our media buyers is, ideally, I don't see you make one cost cap adjustment the entire month. What does that mean? It means you have the perfect cost cap within the ad account that levels up to our blended new customer ROAS target. If you can get that, that's a huge win. It's a huge win. And it's that translation between blended new customer ROAS to in ad account. It's based off. We do a lot of analysis to make those two connect, but we need to be monitoring that, right? And it takes like a month or month and a half, 2 months to really get that squared away. So there will be initial adjustments to begin with, but once you have that connection dialed in, you shouldn't be making adjustments to cost controls. And then, yeah, on budgets wise, the only time we do any sort, because we do, inflated budgets like Cody just mentioned, if you spend more than 50% of the budget on any given day, we would hike up the budgets again, because you'll always want it to be, there's probably a little bit more on the bone at that point to increase budgets, but that's not very frequently or very often.
We get new creative in, right? So like we're constantly getting new creative, obviously from our creative pipelines, or we even get it internally from the other brands with like founder videos or static imagery. Like we get new creative. Where is that going in the science and know-how on which campaigns to touch, which campaigns not to touch?
So when it comes to cost controls, adjustments, and budgets, obviously there's not a ton of time going towards that. There is some cost gaps adjustments, manual entry, post sales. That could probably be another episode altogether as well.
I mean, that goes into, just to jump on that, it goes into like the forecasting, understanding seasonality offers and understanding what's happening outside of the ad account.
Yes, there's things to talk about on that front. Post sale, you do need to insert yourself, make adjustments. But okay, so that leaves a majority of the time actually in the ad account. Obviously, we've talked about things outside of the ad account, creative, forecast, landing pages, offers to solve for spend. In the ad account, it's doing builds, right? Launching creative. And so that's where the work comes in for sure within the ad account itself, outside of like these more strategic things that the media buyers are doing. And when it comes to structuring it, again, the competitive advantage that Kynship brings is creative pipelines. We're mass, producing content to supplement our paid media efforts within Meta, and the structuring of it, right? There's a lot of I feel like it's just a buzz, trendy scaling campaigns, testing campaigns. When you have cost caps, every campaign is a testing campaign that has the opportunity to become a scaling campaign. And when it becomes a scaling campaign, don't freaking touch that thing, right? The more, again, we've talked about this in this episode time and time again at this point, the more you touch it, the worse that ad account is going to be performing. So when you find something that works, when you find that vein, let it run its course, and don't touch that thing. Don't lose the momentum. Let that Momo build up and let it rip. So structuring wise, yes, ASC campaigns. You have 150 pieces of creative per ASC campaign. You want to have those as diversified as possible. I've seen some accounts try to split up campaigns and ad sets by this is for UGC, this is for statics, this is for so on and so forth. Bad. Don't do that. The more diverse it is, the better performance will be. That's a Meta best practice, 100%. And again, let's just say you have one product SKU, one offer. Let's say we start off with 300 pieces of creative. We would just launch that into 2 ASC campaigns at the cost control that levels up to our AMER, right? Let it run. And let's say in 2 weeks from now, we get 300 more pieces of creative, right? Campaign one. What will always happen within a cost control setting is that one campaign out of all your campaigns will get a majority of the spend, and then within that campaign, 5 to 10 of the creatives out of the 150 will get a majority of the spend. And that, again, that is not a bug. That is not a bug.
Feature, baby. Episode 1.
You that's what you want it to do. You want Meta to allocate your best next dollar spent behind the campaign and behind the creative within that campaign that's going to get you the best return on your money. And a majority of the time that comes down to, even if there's just one piece of creative, that's great. That's the next best dollar spent, all good. So 2 campaigns, 150 pieces of creative, each of them one offer, one product, so on and so forth. The next week or 2 weeks later, we get 300 pieces more creative. So only the one out of the 2 campaigns are spending any money. The second campaign isn't spending anything. We would replenish 150 of those ads in the second campaign, remove them, and put in 150 of the new ads into that second campaign. So the first campaign, we're not touching it. That's working. Don't freaking touch that thing. Don't get rid of any content in it. Don't add any new content. Let that thing run its course. Let it scale. Second campaign, 150 ads are being removed. 150 new ads are being put in. And then we're launching a third campaign with 150 new ads. So basically, we're leaving what's working. We're not touching that. And then the content that's not spending, when we get new content, we're switching it out and replenishing it, and then continue to scale in that way.
Is there anything to be said over? Okay, let's say those 2 campaigns again. Another hypothetical example. It's not 100% one campaign, 0% spend on the next campaign, but it's more of like a 70-30, 60-40. I know this is like nuance here.
I would launch a third and fourth campaign at that point. Yeah, I want to replenish it. Again, we're getting to the margins, but I like this though. Like,
no, these are natural questions that people come up with. So
yeah, so I would just launch a third and fourth campaign at that point. And the natural next question there is, well, isn't this just an endless cycle, so on and so forth? No, in the beginning, I would say you're more prone to maybe get spend to 1 to 2 campaigns. Once you get to 8 ASC campaigns, there's not going to be more than 4 campaigns getting any spend. So you at least always have 4 times 150 ads, right? You're looking at 600 available ad placements at that point. I think that math was accurate.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, so you'll always have at least like 600 placements ready to be refreshed, in any given week. And hey, if you're pumping 600 ads per week, good for you. That's an awesome problem to solve for at that point. But then come talk to us if you're there.
Yeah, no, that's good. So natural, I mean, this is another hypothetical. We're maxing out the 8 campaigns. So those 2 product SKUs, 4 of them, like one product's getting all the spend with those 4 campaigns. The next offer or SKU is getting little to no spend. What are we doing with that product SKU besides talking to the brand? I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a real argument at that point, right? If we, assuming, we've tried to position this offer, we try to position this product, we've maxed out our opportunities to try to get delivery against the target cost control and the blended new customer ROAS. We've done the work there. Assuming that's the case, there's a real argument to be made of, hey, we have a lot of extra room here to go scale product one.
What's working? Yeah.
You know what's working, right? And there's a lot to say for that option because we're only using half of the capacity of the ad account to really push this thing forward, and we're finding a lot of success for it. Now you open up another half of the ad account. Could that mean double the amount of scale? I don't know if I would go that far, but you're definitely opening up for a lot more success than you've been experiencing currently with getting zero spend out on this second offer, second product SKU.
And that's where it's just a conversation with the brand, right? It's like, do you want to just make Meta? This is going to be the acquisition that we have. This is like your first time, especially for the way that we set up Meta to be a new customer acquisition tool. This is basically your first time customer product that people are buying. So do we want to just double down on this? Or do you want to continue to bang our heads against the wall to try to offer this second product or second SKU?
Well, and that's like kind of the main thing of this episode. Like, what are we even doing on our end, right? Yeah, this type of thought work as well. Like, what product SKUs are actually going to level up within Meta to your overall top line and profitability goals, and take into consideration, okay, when someone buys this product SKU versus that product SKU, how does that impact LTV? How does that impact your retention rates? How does that impact cost delivery overall for your business? All these things we're constantly monitoring to ensure that it levels up to success.
Let's end on another "you're welcome" comment with what we do with new creative to offset any favoritism.
You're welcome. It's my favorite line. It's very arrogant, but it has the best intentions. When we get new creative, this has just come from a lot of clients, put a lot of work, and so does our team. Puts a lot of work into sourcing new creative, and so it can be disheartening at times when we get that creative into the ad account. Everyone's super excited, and it gets no spend. And that's where Cody says another "you're welcome" moment. We would say, "You're welcome." Sunk cost fallacy. Don't dig a deeper hole. You don't want to go burn money, and that's the beauty of cost controls, right? But that said, there is a justified way to go about this that doesn't go put it in a testing campaign on highest volume and you go burn your money. You don't need to go to that extreme. But there is something to be said of, hey, you have this cost control that levels up to your target new customer ROAS, and within your existing campaigns, you hold it at that clip. But when you introduce new creative to offset, some of the favoritism that the algorithm shows to existing creative through social proof and through existing data on those campaigns,
it's a rightful statement. I mean, creative works better with more data, right?
For sure, 100%. Yes.
It's not it sounds like we're dogging on it, but it is a right thought process of like, well, all this creative has pre-existing data, social proof of what you're saying.
Yes.
Which is exactly why we've set up this rule.
Yes. To offset that, what we're doing to expand on Cody saying the rule is we will elevate cost controls temporarily on new creative being introduced into the ad account. So again, when we have 150 new assets, for example, and we're creating a new campaign, let's just say, hey, we have a $50 cost control that levels up to our target. We will raise the cost controls on the new creative 10 to 20%. So let's call it 15. You're looking at $57.5 cost control instead of a 50, and we'd probably do it for about a week. And again, what is that for? To offset the social proof that's had on these existing campaigns, the spend that has aggregated data behind those campaigns and those ads. So we're offsetting that. I wouldn't go further than that. I wouldn't go longer than a week. I think that's more than enough time. Ideally, you're getting 50 purchases on that campaign, right, in an ASC, so it gets an optimization. All of that, once it's done, we would lower the cost controls to that even clip at 50, where all things are equal. And then if it's not getting spend at that 57.5 over the course of the week, don't give in to sunk cost fallacy. That is enough to say, hey, the next best dollar spent is behind these existing creatives and these existing campaigns that we have.
Well, let's wrap it up. What do your media buyers even do all day?
They set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it, baby. Well, I think we addressed that. I mean, it's shifts from reactive to proactive management. It's appears automated from an outside perspective. So I think that's why the myth exists. Even when ASC was first introduced, it was just like, why do I need even a media buying agency? They made it so easy for me. So some of these things that even outside of cost controls, that ASC has made it easy to launch a campaign. But I think it's significantly undervaluing especially what we just talked about, compared to even just a normal media buyer is doing. So spending 80% of our time outside of the ad accounts with strategic work to affect what we're doing inside. So would you have any final thoughts on it besides you're welcome?
You're welcome. No, yeah. I mean, just TLDR, I think it's your media buyer should have ownership of what that target should be and constantly fact checking that target, because it shouldn't always be the same, right? Because all the other levers of your business are constantly changing. And so your media buyer needs to have visibility into that daily, weekly, monthly, to be able to determine, okay, should this actually be our target? It's our target today, but should it be our target next month? Your retention metrics go up. Okay, there's opportunity to lower this AMER now, to lower this in ad account ROAS. They should have ownership of that target and be monitoring if that target should be what it is today, tomorrow. And then again, 2, solve for spend. Once that target is locked, how are we solving for spend? Creative offers, landing pages, so on and so forth.
I mean, we didn't even talk about other channels, visibility into other channels, which is part of another huge thing. But this has gone long enough. Not that you guys don't like listening to us, because I know you do, all you faithful subscribers out there. But until next time, we don't know what the next myth will be, but we'll be back with another one.
I'm sure.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
You're welcome.